What's up, guys? This one is going to be a little bit different, at least to start. Here's the deal. No more time to schedule at the dyno, and I can't afford any more time at the dyno. Plus, we weren't really getting the results that I was looking for, but through my own driving, testing, tuning over the last few days, things have been getting a little bit better, well, over the last 24 hours or whatever. But I need to actually put in some real longer poles so I can make sure that the power band a little bit longer is going in there. So it's late night now, traffic has died down in the city. I got to jump on the interstate and do some top secret power poles. Stay tuned. We're back at the shop. I told you this was going to be a little bit of a different one. So this is the last day of essentially testing and tuning on this car before we start with paint. It's getting dialed in. It's very close. It's almost acceptable, but it's not quite there yet. There's a couple issues I want to address, and then we're going to be all done. So stay with me. This is gonna be good. I hope. Jesus. So here's what we got to do. The two big things are we're having a weird boost cut when we are in our boost curve sometimes. I'll talk about that a little bit later. That's what we were testing earlier last night. And we also have a weird thing going on with our coolant system where I think a little bit of air is entering into the cooling system somewhere. So that's the first thing I'm going to start with, because everything else is going to need a lot of driving to tinker with and mess with. And when the car gets hot, it's very hard to mess with the cooling system. So I need to do some work on the cooling system. Here's what I'm going to do first. First thing that I want to do with this cooling system is clean up these heater hoses. So these are just kind of how they were stock. They need to be improved. So we're going to trim them up, angle them correctly so they go directly towards each other, and put tighter hose clamps on them, because since this is a high point in the motor, right here, they could easily be collecting a lot of air in these lines right here, and that could be all of our problems. So I'm just going to trim them up, clean them up, and tighten down the hose clamps even harder. Okay, heater hose lines have been trimmed, and good news, bad news. Good news is kind of, I think I found the source of the problem. There's at least one of the problems was those lines. I was probably just not paying attention to what I was doing. I was working too fast, and I put a piece of aluminum through both of those, and it didn't have like a barb on the end of it, so it made for a place where it could definitely seep like air into the system. So I went out and bought a legitimate hose connection piece. You can see it's right there. It's like a black piece, and it's got barbs on both sides there, and that's installed there. So I also upgraded the hose clamps all around, and I've got high hopes for that. So I know that was at least one of the problems, because both the hoses were completely empty of water when I cracked them open. So I've refilled the system. I'm going to go ahead and use the vacuum tool and vacuum test the system one more time and see if we're holding pressure. Cooling system is all wrapped up. I did a pressure test. We held pressure nicely, so there we go. We fixed it. I added a little bit of fluid back in and some water wetter, which will lower the boiling point of our fluid without adding antifreeze. So that's good, because I think it's track approved. All right, next I want to explain to you guys what was going on with our boost issue. So the boosting issue is pretty unique, and I think I figured out what it was. So here's a video of it happening. What we got there is the boost is we're rising, and then there's a cut, like almost like the car is shifting is what it seems like. And then it continues to go off and boost and continue to go. So it's not the fuel cut. So that means our fuel cut defender is still working in here. So it's not a fuel cut, because if it was a fuel cut, we wouldn't be able to get over that and then continue boosting. Also, you can see that if you play back in slow motion, you can see that the fuel is fine. So I noticed that that was happening when I gave the throttle like a good jab and was just like, let's go fast right now. Now, if I just slowly put into it, as we're building boost, I continue to just put pressure onto that pedal until I get to 100% throttle at the top end. That never happened. So here's an example of that. So I was able to figure these things out, and I started thinking like, this really seems strange, and I was Googling around and I figured out what I think it is. It's the ECU that I'm using, the 2JZ GTE Aristo engine transmission ECU. The ECU has built into it traction control. So I've read on the forums that people are saying, okay, when I get crazy or whatever, the ECU thinks, oh, these wheels are spinning too fast, and turns on traction control. Most people don't have this problem because most people don't keep the automatic transmission. So there's some sort of communication going between the transmission and the ECU. I talked to Motion Auto TV, Trevor, and he does not have this issue. He has the same setup as me, but he doesn't have this issue. Why? Because he doesn't have the transmission. So there's something going on between the transmission and the car. I figured out one thing to try, which is literally unplugging one of the entire plugs that go to the ECU. I looked at the pinout diagram of that plug, and nothing on there is anything that I need. A lot of it is like the sensor when you hit the brakes and other stuff like that wouldn't have been working anyways. So that's what I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go ahead and unplug that, and then we're gonna jump on the road and hit boost, and we'll see what happens. All right, well, I got done it. I unplugged the whole thing. Let's see if the car even still starts. Powered up. Car starts. Let's go ahead and launch the tablet and see if we have any codes. No codes in the ECU. I guess we really didn't need that plug. All right, well, this is kind of a weird idea and potentially stupid, but since I have the car up on the lift, I figured if the wheels aren't even touching the ground, we could really emulate a no traction scenario. So I got the tach right there. Just gonna, I don't know, pretend I'm driving the car and see what happens. I hope we don't fall off the lift. We didn't get any cut or anything like that. I think we're ready for the street. All right, here we go. We got a pretty good window right here and a little bit of uphill, which will help us boost longer, and we won't go as fast. So we won't die, probably. Here we go. We stayed in boost the whole time. All right, this time we're gonna go for a little bit more aggressive, like jerky, like throttle jab, like last time. And there's a bus in front of me, that's great. Maybe not, too much traffic. We'll try. Still doing well, no boost cuts. All right, one last try. We got to make this one as jerky as possible to try and emulate the problems I was having last time, so full time. Something went bang. That did not sound good at all. Oh, I have no more engine. I have nothing on the pedal right now. Well, yeah, coast to a stopping point here. I believe I've found the culprit. This pipe probably popped off while we were in the middle of that pole and then caused us to run lean and not good stuff. So I don't know if I can get that back on by hand. I don't have any tools with me, but I'll do my best and try and just limp it back to the shop. All right, well, that was a fun scare. A couple things need to be done before I get back out there. I need to take that off, clean all the oil from around the coupler and the rubber, and then get it reinstalled, oil-free, bolted back down correctly. The other thing that I'm realizing is that without a tachometer, so basically this GoPro sits right here and points at my two gauges right here and tells me all that I need to know. But I can't see the tachometer, and without seeing the tachometer, it's tough to know really what's going on. So I need to get the tach in frame, and I think I got an idea of how to do that. Okay, I fixed the silicone coupler in front, and here's how I mounted this gauge. Again, this is just quick and dirty so I can get it on camera. Obviously not the final resting place for this. I think I would like it to go up here. So I can buy a little gauge pod that'll go up there. But for now, that's it. It's ready to rock. So I'm gonna get the camera set up and on it, and let's get back out on the road and see how it does. All right, I took the car out real quick, and the air vent gauge, it just kept falling right out the front. So I'm gonna move it over here, and I'm gonna zip tie it in so it can be right there. Then I noticed a much bigger problem. So when I came over here, I was looking at these radiator lines because it still seemed like something was off. I expected a lot more fix. And watch this. So when I push this way, you see that spraying? It's really hot stuff, but try and show you again. So there's a hole in the back of that line. I don't know why my pressure gauge didn't catch that, but so when this thing's wobbling around, it's letting in air into the system and potentially leaking out of there and all sorts of stuff. So that's no good. We got to get that fixed, which means it's going to be a long night because this engine is very, very hot, and we got to give it time to cool down before I can even start working on it. So I'm going to pull it back in the shop. We'll let it cool, and then we'll replace that hose. Well, I got the radiator piping fixed, but I also installed the secondary fan, and I installed it on the same circuit as the starter, and when the fans are pulling all that voltage, the starter doesn't want to start. So I'm switching the fans now onto their own circuit in the pitch black. Back. It's a new day. I was doing all that work outside because I wanted the coolant temperature. I wanted the coolant to cool down faster, and I figured it would outside rather than inside. So that's why I did all that stuff outside. But it's a new day. We're back inside the shop, and it's time to button things up and add one more mod. So we wired that secondary fan. So there's another fan over here now. We wired that all up, and now it's on its own circuit. And we fixed the hose right there. So we're going to do two things relating with the coolant system. I got a 1.3 bar cap that I just added off camera. That is going to put more pressure on the cooling system because we're running water wetter, but we're not running any type of antifreeze or anything like that. So the last thing I want to do though is we're going to do another vacuum test on the whole cooling system. We're going to do that very last. And right now I'm going to go ahead, and you can kind of see right there, there's a bolt right there. That's an opening for a temperature sensor. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that guy out, put a temperature sensor in there. This is a little temp gauge that I bought right here. We're gonna go ahead and wire that into the dash. So our last thing on the gauge pod over there, like I said I wanted, will be the temp sensor. All right, gauge is installed and that's complete. So that's our temp gauge right up there, reading in Fahrenheit. It's got a warning light that'll come on at some level. Car's idling really lean right now, which is a little bit strange, but I'll figure that out as I go. I got the tablet over there to verify as well what's going on. And the water pressure system was really great. It all held up great. So I'm gonna do a little bit of reprogramming on the boost controller, and then we're gonna hit the street for another test. All right, everything's looking good. We're out on the streets. It's time to really send it on this one because I do not want to call this good without really proving it. So here we go. Got a little backfire or stutter there. I hope that's not the traction control stuff that I was worried about before. Now I'm playing with some new boost settings. I'm playing with new spring pressure and so new wastegate crack pressure and a new what's it called? It's basically your overall like how much to boost mode. Can't remember the name of that thing. Duty cycle. Working with a new duty cycle. So it looked like we were really topping out around 10 there, which is not enough obviously. So I'm gonna adjust the boost controller and try again. Before I had a wastegate crack pressure too high, and a symptom of that is that what you see is the boost goes over what your maximum is supposed to be set at, and that's caused by too high of a wastegate crack pressure. So they say, you know, there's a lot of ways to program it, but it's basically a total pain in the butt. So we'll keep doing laps and see how we do. From the test drives, unfortunately, the cutout is still happening. The thing that was like really frustrating, you get going and then all of a sudden you lose a bunch of throttle, you lose a bunch of boost, and then it comes back out of nowhere. It's sketchy as all hell. It's really hard to work around, and it's just strange. I noticed when I put the boost down lower and I had the boost gauge, boost controller set much lower, that never happened because we never broke peak, we never got over kind of what the stock boost levels are supposed to be. I feel like I have a hair right there. So I talked with some other people. I talked on the forums with some people, and the people on the forums were saying that the fuel cutout that your boost cut controller is stopping is not actually a fuel cutout. So I was saying, well, it can't be fuel cut because of this and that, whatever. He was saying it seems like there's something wrong with my boost cut controller. I talked with Trevor from Motion Auto TV. He's saying that he's not even running a boost cut controller, and he's seeing the boost levels that he wants to as well. So I think the next thing to do is just get rid of that boost cut controller because it could be fouling things up. It could be screwing up the whole system. So I'm gonna pull that out, and then we'll get back on the road and see if the problem still persists. If it does, it might be time to go single turbo. That would be cool. All right, that was a pretty quick fix. We're kind of losing daylight, so let's get back out there and see how it does. Ah, fuck, what is that? All right, I apologize if you guys can't see very well. It is getting a little bit dark. I'm gonna try one more time. The last time we had a really clear cutout of some sort. I'm just gonna give it one more shot, see where we end up. So there's two things that are happening. I'm starting to learn this a little bit better. I don't know if this camera can see me at all. There's two things that are happening. So we're getting up to boost. We're getting past 10, and we're getting this lag. Something's kind of bringing it down a little bit. I keep my foot in it, and then it kind of comes back up. And it gets up to like 16, and you saw where it was like going at 16. I keep my foot in it, and then we're going. It's like, okay, now it seems like things are going all right, and we're continuing to go at it. And then you get that backfire, that cut, that spark cut, that whatever that is, and then that's game over. It's just completely crapping out on us. So there's something in the ECU, there's something going on in this car, I believe. I mean, it's got to be in the ECU that's totally pissed off and not allowing me to do this. What a bummer. All right, I'm back for another day. It's night. It got so hot here in Oregon that it was in the 100 and teens, like 115, 117 in the shop today. So I just decided to come back late at night. So it's 2 a.m. right now, and I'm just doing the graveyard thing, and I'll just work through the night because it's a lot cooler this way. So here's what happened. We disabled the boost cut controller, took it out for that last test drive, and it was very clear to me where the boost was hitting boost cut. It was the same spot every time, very consistent response. So that's obviously not good. We made things worse by removing the boost cut controller, so that is something that we absolutely have to have. Other than that, I've been doing more research to try and figure out what's going on. I found another person that has a problem but never found out a fix. The other thing though is that I was thinking kind of the wrong way when I was like, well, we could maybe go single turbo. That won't solve this problem. This is a problem with the ECU being upset about some sort of variable, and then it's pulling back on the electronic throttle. The only way to override its control over that is by replacing the ECU. It's not replacing the turbos, because the problem's really not in the turbocharging system. It's not in the boost controller system. It's in the ECU system. And this Aristo ECU, it's the newest model of kind of the line of 2JZ, the evolution of the 2JZ motor. And it has a lot more smarts in it. It has a lot more fail-safes and different things built into it. So bummer. I mean, really, there's not a lot we can do. I could go standalone ECU. If I did that at the same time, I would want to go single turbo, so you could spend the time and the money on tuning it with the the long-term setup. But that's an extremely expensive option. I mean, you're talking about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, investing the same amount of money that we've already invested into the build once again, just to get to that level. And all we're really dealing with right now is a small throttle cut in our pull. Also, if I want to have any chance of racing TJ on time, that won't happen. It would take weeks to get that all done, tuning time, etc., etc. So I'm not really stoked on that avenue right now. So I'm going to continue working on it. So what I'm going to do right now is I got the car back here. I'm going to go ahead and pop open the boost cut controller. It has a variable voltage that we can set to tell max pressure, to tell maximum map sensor pressure to the ECU. So that's going to be the next thing I'm going to go after. I'm going to go ahead and I'm basically going to try and tune now the boost cut controller, now that I know that it for sure is an important thing to have on there and it was doing things. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in there, verify where it's at right now voltage wise, make sure the tuners didn't change anything with that, tune it myself, and then we will be back on the road testing it out and see what the results are. And who knows, maybe we could get an improvement. All right, we're back up and rolling. There was a lot of configuration to be done with the boost cut controller, so I definitely changed the settings on that. And as well as I changed the power source on that, just in case that the power wire going to the ECU wasn't what we wanted to see. I hardwired it to the battery, so it's going to get a direct 12-volt source in case that was going to be an issue. I just want to eliminate that right off the bat. So we're ready to roll. Let's go ahead and get on the streets. All right, here we go. Obviously, you're not going to be able to see anything, but enjoy the boost gauges and the sounds. We're going to do a slow pull here to see how everything's doing. That was really good. That's a lot of like kind of what I expect. I still felt a little throttle dip there, but not bad. Round two, this will have a shift in it, so we'll see if it gets more aggressive with the throttle cut. Staying in it. What was that? All right, guys, coming back from the test drive, and I'm a little bit bummed, but I'm optimistic about the future, and I'm gonna ramble for a while, but stick with me here. So what we are seeing is there's, with reinstalling the boost cut controller, no more boost cut, that's great. We're still getting some weird throttle, and we're running so rich up top that I even got like a backfire and at one point, and we lost a lot of power when that happens. So my biggest concern right now is I'm taking the idea that traction control was causing this and I'm throwing that out the window. I really don't think that's what it was, and I don't think it's possible after doing more research, just don't think it's possible. We took the boost cut controller off, found boost cut, felt what that's like, put it back on, got rid of that, okay, feels good. So, but we still have this throttle issue, this throttle cut issue, and this running really rich up top issue. So that's the next thing that I want to go after. I'm going to try and do that by going in two different directions. I think, I have a feeling that what's possible is that the ECU is seeing that we're running super rich, way high up top in the rev range and stuff like that, and maybe that's what's throttling us down. Maybe it's getting pissed off and trying to bring us back down because it's running in an unsafe condition. It's totally possible. People have told me, like I said, that these ECUs are really smart. It doesn't, I don't want to say this wrong, so there's an open loop and a closed loop system, and when you're just daily driving around, it's in one of those loop systems where it's reading off of the sensors and it's adjusting fuel ratios and stuff like that on the fly as you go. From what I've heard, when you floor it and you get way up into the top range, it's not doing that anymore, it's just running off of different fuel maps. And if you have too much fuel, then it's not going to want to let you run off of those maps. That's a theory that I've heard. I'm not 100% sure if it's correct, but it does make sense that obviously when your car's running at the very, very peak of its performance, there's not a lot of time to make adjustments because you're only running in there in small amounts of seconds. So there's not a lot of time for the computer to have a looped system and make changes and adjustments as you go. So it kind of makes sense to me that that would be the case, but if anybody knows, let me know. Also, another thing, if anybody knows, maybe what is causing this problem, or you have ideas of things for me to troubleshoot, please leave them in the comments, because every time I troubleshoot something else, I learn about something else, and it's a very good process for me to just start learning about more things, but also eliminating things that could be an option. So that's all good. Okay, so what are we gonna do to solve this problem? I'm gonna move on and I'm just gonna paint the car. No, well, that is actually what I'm gonna do. I need some more hardware. So like I said, can't adjust the air-fuel ratio, or no, I can't adjust the fuel ratio and bring down some of that fuel without being able to program the ECU, or maybe, I'm not sure about this, but I think maybe an adjustable fuel pressure regulator might be able to do that. It kind of makes sense that you might be able to do that. So what I was thinking is I should look to see if I can find an adjustable fuel pressure regulator, but also how can I mess with the ECU without going standalone? And I found out that a lot of people are using this piggyback system made by Apexy. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and hunt one of those down. I only have like 6 days until I'm supposed to leave town, so I can't ship anything in, but that's the YouTube life. So I'm gonna start hunting down both of those things and see what I can do. In the meantime, we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna start painting the car tomorrow. Let me say this though. The car still, even with this weird throttle cut issue, is extremely fast. I don't know if you guys could tell by those videos, but I was never in it for like a long period of time, because by the time you have your foot on the floor for like 3 seconds, you're going at an extreme amount of speed. So the car is stupidly fast. It's the fastest thing I've ever driven, except for like the 500 horsepower AMG GTS and those things like that out in Palm Springs when we were able to do that. But short of $100,000 supercars, it's by far the fastest car I've ever driven. So it's got some serious power to it. Last time we were at the dyno, I never told you guys this, last time we were at the dyno and it was getting tuned, it put down 270 of the wheels at 12 pounds of boost. Now we're at 16 pounds of boost. So you can do the math. 10 pounds of boost got us to like 240, 12 pounds got us to like 270. So I don't know, add 4 or 5 more pounds of boost to that. It's obviously a non-linear curve. So hopefully we're in the 300s, which is extremely fast for a car like that. And then you have transmission is sapping power away from the dyno, so you're actually putting down a lot more power. So, you know, it's a fast car is what I'm saying. So even if I do have this throttle cut issue, I'm still going down to California to race, and we'll just see how we do. Who cares? Anybody misses a shift and they're toast. So, so that's where I'm at right now. I'm gonna shift gears to painting, and I'm gonna order some of those parts, and it daily drives great. So the other thing that's kind of cool is we can drive this thing down to California, just set up shop at TJ's shop and install some shit that we need there, and we'll do it. Plus, when we're in California, there's a million different shops everywhere where we can just buy these things off the shelf versus me having to order everything in to Oregon because Portland hates cars. So that was my really long winded way of saying the game plan is now I'm going to try and improve the fuel ratio up at the top end, hoping that that will make the ECU happier, or just override what the ECU thinks it's doing. And until I can get the parts to do that, I'm going to paint the car. Thank you guys so much for watching. That's the end of this episode. It's 5 a.m. I don't like this trying to work through the night thing. It's not very hot. It's only like 70 degrees outside, but it's weird. It's like a ghost town. Anyways, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. We got new shop flags in the store now. The Mustang ones are back in stock. There's a new BRZ one that matches the shirt that we had, and by many people's requests, there's just a plain old BS for Build one. A lot of people want them to match up with other people's shop flags. So there you go. If you don't like a specific car, but you just want the logo, they're in stock. Check those out. That's all at bsforbuild.com. Scroll down the shop, pick up that. Another announcement, I'm not going to talk about this too much because I just talked a lot, is we're releasing another YouTube channel very shortly, and I will explain what that is when we're on our way to California. So like next week, sorry, spiders. Next week I will explain the new YouTube channel. Other than that, I don't know. That's it. Follow us on Instagram, BS for Build. Follow us on Facebook, BS for Build. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. In the next episode, I will be more used to being awake at 5 a.m. and not so scatterbrained. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow. Please remember to like and subscribe. Peace!